I've only practiced it a million times, no pressure. Lahore is a centuries-old city located in the heart of Pakistan. It's a city that wakes up with the sound of azan, call to prayer. As the sun rises from behind the glorious arches of the Grand Mosque, the streets fill in with the light and laughter of students, young, some of my age, going to school, as the familiar smiles grace each other on their way to work. Needless to say, Lahore is not just a city, it's a lifestyle. So is Mumbai, Dhaka, Toronto, Jeddah, and many of these very, very beautiful cities all around the world. Now, why am I starting with an insight to these cities and cultures and lifestyles? We'll get back to that. My name is Mahrukh Maqsood. I'm an international graduate student here at the Department of Communication Studies. And today I'm here to talk about sharing my experience and telling you how to change the world one meeting at a time. Well, before I begin, I want to address the obvious assumption. I'm not here today to talk about Islamophobia. I'm not here today to break any of the stereotypes. I'm also not here today to tell you how many times the color of my skin has affected people's behavior towards me. Or even more, how many times I've been approached by people and told, "You speak so fine. How long have you been here in the States?" To which I normally reply, "Well, so do you. And if you do need help with your grammar here and there, or want to talk about rhetoric, we can sit down and have a chat. After all, I come from a very hospitable country. Wouldn't mind teaching you a little bit about yours." Let's begin. The story starts around 18 months ago when I got shortlisted for the master's program here in the Department of Communication Studies, a place I now call home. I got a call from my graduate director, and she wanted to ask some questions. Her first question was, "So, you're clearly qualified to be in a PhD program. Why do you want to get into a master's?" And I said, "Well, I know that. I do want a PhD, not very far from today. But before that, I want to understand the American education system. I want to get my feet wet so I can ace it." Our conversation went on a bit, and in the end she said, "You'll fit just fine." Lo and behold, a few weeks later, I got my acceptance letter, and now there were two Niners in the house, me and my husband, who's a Fulbright scholar doing his doctorate in the Department of Public Policy. People do often say that we are like kind of power couple, but I just really don't like to brag. That's just not me. Well, the classes started, and I was now on the other side of the podium. Having worked in corporate, having taught at the university level, the wheels had now turned, and now I was on the other side, feeling the pain. There was There were days when I questioned myself. There were days we both sat down and talked about how this was going to work or not. But then there was this one specific beautiful Tuesday. At around 4 p.m., walking from my one class to another, I felt like I was going to faint. I sat down and I called my husband and I said, hey, so I think I'm going to faint. Having realized what could have possibly happened, he immediately replied, let's get some food. So we made our way to the student dining options here in Charlotte, and we entered, trying to navigate our way through unfamiliar foods and salads. So many salads. And we just asked each other, so what are we going to eat here? There were no halal signage, nothing like that. So I did what I do. I made my way to this nice lady in the chef's coat, and I said, hey, how are you? She said, hi. There was a smile on her face, all of that. And then I asked her, I was like, hey, so what's halal on the menu today? And there it was. The smile was gone. And she said, excuse me, what? That was my first, that kind of, excuse me, what? And in that moment, I felt like a chill went down my spine. Like the reality had just hit me and hit me quite hard. I know I'm sounding dramatic, but bear with me. And I said thank you, and I made my way back to my husband, and we grabbed some cheese pizza, some ice cream. That was about it, and salads. And we made our way back to both of our graduate classes. Later that week, I had to go pray because I couldn't find time to go home and pray, and I found out that though Charlotte had a prayer place, it did not have an ablution space. Now, what is ablution? It's a cleaning ritual that Muslims perform before they pray. And let me tell you, it's not optional. So now the question was, in a campus with hundreds of religious minority students, where were they eating? Where were they praying? How was this mechanism even working? I started attending a couple of meetings, went and sat down with student leaders at the time, and there was this one word that kept bouncing back at me. Compromise. Okay. The thing is, my parents had just not raised a quitter, and compromise was just not something that was embedded in my DNA. That day I realized that it was not going to work for me or any of those people who were living here. Why compromise? I started attending more and more meetings. And then the second meeting came, the second important meeting. The chancellor had an open town hall, and I decided to attend it. At the end of that town hall, the chancellor asked, does anybody have any questions? And boy, did I have questions. So I raised my nice little brown hand emoji on Zoom, and I waited to be called upon. By luck or by fate, I was the last one. She said, hello. Tried to have an attempt at my name. I respected that. And then she said, how can I help? And I said, oh, you want to help? I said, so Chancellor, I'm a graduate student here. I have back-to-back classes, and I have to pray in between. I don't have a place to eat, and neither can I pray uncompromised. So since you're offering to help, what are you going to do about it? For 30 seconds, there was this very nice silence in the room, the online room. And then she said, well, honestly, I don't really have an answer for you right now. Not that I was surprised. But somebody will get back to you. I said, sure. The meeting ended. I got up to say my evening prayer. And by the time I made my way back to my laptop, I had 2 emails in my inbox. One from the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, the other from the Dean of Students. Well, they offered to help, so I took them up on that. I started going to meetings, started organizing more town halls, and by the end of first year, I had realized that the only way this change is going to happen is I'm going to have to sit and find a seat on that table where decisions are made. I started applying to all the possible committees there were. And by the start of second year, I was the first Pakistani Muslim International Graduate Life Fellow with the Center for Graduate Life and Learning. I was a student marshal. I was asked to be on the committee of International Student and Scholars Office, where we lobby for immigration awareness. And recently, I was asked to sit on the Student Health Advisory Board, where we lobby for physician awareness to be able to treat students with gender and religious minorities. Well, I do have good news. As of this Monday, University of North Carolina, Charlotte will be offering halal food at both of its student dining options. And not just that. In this very building that you're sitting in today, Charlotte will be building its first ablution station in the fall of 2023. This very year. Now, how did that came to be? I have my 2 cents on that. The question is, what can other universities do to follow the same model, to follow suit? This is a little 4-step process, starting with the obvious. Listen, read the room, see where your students are suffering. You have to ask them to speak. Don't let me fool you. Where I come from, not everybody is as eager to come and ask for what they want. Some of them would rather never speak. You have to let them speak and listen. You have to create platforms. Platforms like Center for Graduate Life and Learning here at Charlotte that gave me a seat at the table to sit with the chancellor and tell her what I want and what I don't want. More importantly, lead towards strategizing. How is it different to change cultural or religious policy as you modernize the same time technologically? How are those two not running simultaneously, as they should be? And most importantly, implement and improvise. We had to press on that door for a very long time. Don't close it on us. We just won't have it. Why am I asking for so much? Why am I here, taking your time of day, and asking you to listen to me? To that, I have an answer in my language. In Urdu, there is a saying, Roti, kapda aur makan, itna to sabka hak hai. A bite to eat, a roof over your head, and an ability to dress decently are basic human rights. That's all I'm asking for. And to bring it to a close, I just want you to have an insight in the life of a student of a religious minority. A person who wakes up on the morning of Eid, make their way to their prayer, only to come back and jump back in their trousers to go and check up on their lab. Or those ironical cultural awareness lunches being organized when Muslims are fasting. These are students who have left behind their lives. And that is where we come back to those beautiful cities. They have left behind their happinesses, their sadnesses, and as my husband likes to say, their mountains, and their oceans, and their cold streets, only here to come and experience the American dream, to try and understand what is on that part of that world that everybody keeps talking about. So now that we are here and we're giving you our best, all we ask in return is that you try and do the same. Let's turn this world into a more equitable environment. Because if not us, then who? If not now, then when? Jazakallah, Sham Bakhair. Thank you so much.